completion of Majlis and Matam. The rooms for the mothers with young children are upstairs. The Majlis in Urdu will be broadcast in the multi-purpose room, and the Majlis in English will be broadcast in classroom 11. Rooms for fathers with young children are downstairs. Majlis in English will be broadcast in classroom 6, and Majlis in Urdu will be broadcast in classroom 8. Please don't bring food into the Majlis, both during the program and after. We want to maintain cleanliness in this area. The bar to go is going to be at the main entrance for the men, and for the ladies, it will be at the side entrance near the blue door and the elevators. Please drive carefully when you're in the parking lot. We have the elderly, we have children. It's dark outside, so please drive very slowly as you leave the masjid tonight. Registration for Baitul Ilm Academy Sunday School is open for ages 2 through 15. You can find the links to the registration forms on the Baitul Ilm website under the Sunday School tab. The first day of school will be inshallah August 18th. If you have any questions regarding the new Tarbiyah curriculum, email the administration at sundayschool@baitulilm.org. And we also have Sunday School administrators here who are available to answer any questions. They are generally in the foyer after Maghrib Salah. With that, let us begin the program. Please welcome Brother Irtiza Haider for the recitation of the Noble Quran with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف
please recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'd like to now invite Brother Jafar Sayyid for a recitation of English poetry. Please welcome him to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
I'm going to recite a short poem first. It's in honor of Imam Hussein. It talks about the poet longing to meet or be at Imam Hussein's Roza, and how he wants to be in his servitude. Therefore, he orders his organs even to be in servitude to Imam Hussein. And this poem is written by Ammar Nashid. It's called Heart Dust. For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat. I am the dust beneath the dust of your land. I am a beggar to you. I'm reaching my hand. You are the sun behind the cloud, though far you are near. Even if I don't see you, I know you are there. I am drowning, you're the air. You're my comfort in my fear, and I wrote your holy name on every tear. I'm at your door, I'm at your door, and I am knocking, pleading, let me in to your remorse. If you turn away from me, I will lose my only hope, my only hope. Heart, I will shackle you in chains. If you forget Hussein's name, I will sever from you veins, eyes. I will deny you light years. If you cannot shed a tear, seeing the head on a spear chest, I dare you if you would dare, call out anyone else, dear. I will deny from you air. He is all I have ever known. My heart is under his dome, beating for her Bain Iman. Lend me your holy hand moments. Take me into your land moments. Allow me to breathe moments, Hussein. I am here to see the moon in all its glory. I am here again to listen to your story. I am here to close my eyes and drift away in a far-off memory of that tragic day. They say death surrounded you, so I came running to you to be with the millions of lovers who came. They call your name, they call your name. Everywhere I look, I hear the people crying Hussein, with a hand on their heart and one hand is wiping their pain, crying Hussein, crying Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa
Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Buried in your heart the son of Fatima, Waris of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa, that Hussein ibn Ali Murtada, who defied every zulm of Ashkiya, with his final call you still reverberate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. He who taught us how to beat adversity, never compromise on our humanity. He who fought violence with generosity and became the standard of integrity. Only if his model we could emulate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. You were witness to the son of Murtada, he who lost his hands and head at Al-Qama, he whose loyalty for Ibn al-Fatima made him forever the father of Wafa. Oh, that Abbas-e Jari we venerate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ahmad Zaidi, Sayyid Ali Mubarak Masood, son of Sayyid Mubarak Ali Shah. Please remember them with the Surah Fatiha preceded by As-Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Our speaker for these first 10 days of Muharram is Sayyid Sulayman Hasan Abidi. As you all know, Sayyid Sulayman was our religious director here at Baitul Ilm and was the president of the Ahlul Bayt Islamic Seminary. Sadly for our community, he moved to Washington, D.C. in 2017, and he's currently serving as a resident scholar at Shai Najaf in Alexandria, Virginia. We are indeed honored to have him address the community during these first 10 days of Muharram. If I can ask the brothers to please stand up and move forward and welcome him to the minbar with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Surah Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين شفيع المذنبين وحبيب قلوب الصادقين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today is our second majlis in these nights of Muharram, during which we will focus on the mission and the journey of Imam Hussein, which was not just a physical journey from Medina through Mecca to Karbala on the path of sacrifice and on the path of martyrdom, but it was a religious and a spiritual journey for the Imam and the family of the Prophet who were with him and those chosen companions who were honored by Allah with the company and with the martyrdom in the path of Imam Hussein, but also a spiritual journey for us who were born centuries after the events of Karbala. But in our heart and in our intention, we want to embark on that journey with our Imam, so that even if our bodies were not there in Karbala, but our heart and our souls and the sum total of our life is with the Imam and furthering his mission and not separate from them. And that is, in fact, not just a journey with Imam Hussein, but through Imam Hussein, it is a journey to connect with and to serve the Imam of our time, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because, as we mentioned yesterday, there were two important beginnings that are connected to this month of Muharram. One is the hijrah or the migration of our blessed Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi to Medina. Salawat ala Muhammad. And this was for us a great beginning. But if we were contemporaries, as we described in some detail yesterday, there was an earlier migration to Abyssinia. Commonly, historians say there were two migrations. Maybe it's more accurate, as I was discussing with Shaykh Ridwan Arastu, who is studying the Sirah, it's more accurate perhaps to say it was a series or a wave of progressive migrations to Abyssinia. But in either case, the Muslims and the Prophet himself did not have safety in their own city, and so they migrated successively to Abyssinia. The Prophet attempted to migrate to Ta'if, and he had been boycotted and surrounded in his own city for a number of years. And then he migrated finally to Medina from one difficult circumstance to another very difficult area where there were Jewish tribes that were potential enemies and had trade relationships and even religious and family ties with others in Arabia, in Fadak and in Khaybar, and beyond Arabia, in Roman and in Persian territories, all of whom would be opposed to this new message and religion that was being brought by the Prophet. And then even among those Arab tribes that had welcomed the Prophet in their midst as a mediator, there was opposition from the supporters of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, the putative king of Medina, or the one who wished to be the king of Medina. So the question arises, If we had been there at that time, would we have followed the Prophet? Or would we have hesitated and said, as some people did, let's wait and see what happens. And maybe if it succeeds, then we'll join later. And if not, we won't join. Or even worse, would we be among those who would mock? He's 53 years old and he doesn't even have a city that he can call home. He was born in the greatest family, and they came to him and said that we will make you the king of Medina, of Mecca. If Abdullah ibn Ubay was trying to gather a kingship for himself in Medina, then Mecca was a more prestigious city and a greater city, and the lineage of the Prophet was respected and known throughout Arabia and beyond. In Yemen and in Abyssinia and in Syria and those Roman territories, they knew of the lineage of the Prophet. They knew of Hashim and Abdul Muttalib and the family that were descendants of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim as-salam. So some people joined the Prophet and they rushed to it. Some people, they stood back and said, let's wait and see. Maybe they considered themselves to be wise or prudent. And then there were many more people who would have looked and considered those dedicated Muslims to be overzealous and maybe a little bit foolish. They would have looked at them and mocked them, and maybe many of them would have mocked the Prophet himself, that he had a good offer from Quraysh. He had an opportunity to live a respectable life, and he threw it all away for what? For exile, for people, many of whom were slaves and considered to be the outcasts of society, to consider him to be their leader. So that is an important question for us to ask ourselves. Because on that historical question we might say, well, we believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so we're on the right side of that question. But unless we understand what were the factors that separated people into different groups, then those similar kinds of moral questions that exist in our time, we might not be on the right side of the equation. And this is what brings us to that second beginning, that second commencement that is attributed and associated with Muharram, and that is the sacrifice of Sayyid al-Shuhada, the Prince of Martyrs, Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet, and the successor and the heir of the Prophet, and his example not only of what martyrdom is, but also of what the essence of the message of his grandfather, our Prophet, is. It wasn't that difficult for people to say there is one God. Just like many people today, they say, yeah, I believe in God. I'm spiritual but not religious. To believe in God, as long as God doesn't actually tell you to be a good person and tell you what to do, doesn't really take that much courage. And it doesn't build character within you, because it's kind of maybe just a little bit of a mental insurance policy. What if there is something after I die? Well, I can say, God, I didn't reject you. It was much more difficult for people to believe that God actually has obligations and a message that you are responsible for, And that is why for many people to take that bridge from La ilaha illallah to Muhammadun Rasulullah was not so easy. Because if you say there is no God and Muhammad is his messenger, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, now all of a sudden you might make enemies of your former friends and family members and celebrities and powerful people within society. You might need them for a job, you might need them for a reference, you might want to be accepted by them because they are popular and they are well known, and so that was not so easy. But then when Islam began to spread, then even to say Muhammadun Rasulullah was not that difficult. As long as we can say, all right, we have now this religion, and then we can do with it what we want. There are people who use religion to profit or to launder their reputation or their bad deeds. They can grow a beard, have a tasbih and show that they are remembering Allah, maybe always have a word of piety on their lips. That is true in Christianity, it is true in Islam, and it is true in any religion, because it is human nature to find a way to feel superior or to justify our own faults, and there are people who use religion for that. And in some cases, religious people and religion itself bears the ill reputation of people who are evil, who are scoundrels, and they are just using religion for their own personal reasons. But rather than them receiving the blame, in many cases, it is Islam that received the blame. And so that second stage was equally difficult for people after accepting God and accepting the Prophet, then to understand what is the essence of the religion of the Prophet. Those of you who are interested in history and politics, you will know that every revolution, when it succeeds, tends to become anti-revolutionary. Immoral laws are not worthy of obedience unless I make the laws. And now it is against our societal interest and security, and we have to now just try to settle for whatever we have and work within the system. All right, if that is the case, then why didn't I work within the system until now? But Islam was, I'm not saying in a political sense, in a spiritual, and we will expand on this, in a spiritual and in a very human way, Islam was the most revolutionary message imaginable to take people away from Jahiliyyah and the service of their whim and desire and implicit worship of shaitan, Satan, to a life devoted to eternal values and worship only of the one true God. What can be more revolutionary than that? Not in a political sense, although it has political consequences. Not in a societal sense of abolishing many unjust practices and institutions, although it has consequences in society. But in the most deep spiritual sense, at the level of your own humanity, before you enter society and before you enter politics and before you think about the economy, Islam is revolutionary. But then, how can Islam be protected from that trajectory that other revolutions have undergone? We undermined and we disobeyed an unjust law, but now we say that the law is supreme. And within Islamic history, you find that there was one understanding of this religion that said obedience to the government, stability within society, working within the system at all costs. Even if Islam becomes an empire, maybe marginally better, but not substantially different from many empires that came before it in the same lands, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and other kingdoms and dynasties that ruled in the past. This is that second beginning. What preserved and protected the purity of Islam and the message of Islam, that spiritually revolutionary character of Islam, is the mission of Sayyid al-Shuhada Imam Hussein ibn Ali alayhi as-salatu was-salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alayhi. Some people think of it as a revolt against Yazid. Yazid was the emperor who was personally sinful and ruled an unjust kingdom, rooted in tribalism and pursuit of wealth and luxury and the base pleasures that many impious people devote their entire life to. But Imam Hussein's revolt was not against Yazid, the emperor, or the dynasty that he ruled in the name of. It was a restoration to ensure that Islam does not just become a bureaucracy or a kingdom or a normal kind of habitual part of the life of Muslims, where our horizon doesn't get lowered down to the level of this world. And another way to say that is that there were certain characteristics that were implicit within the formative period of Islam that brought people to this religion. But then, as Islam spread, the average commitment to the religion changed. People change. Those of you who are a little older, you might remember when you had these dreams that, if I ever become wealthy, then I will live a simple life and I will devote all of my extra income towards those who are in need. And then 20 years pass, you get married, you have children, you work with people whose talk is about their vacations and their possessions and new technology and so on. And now you pat yourself on the back if you give a small portion of your income after everything else that you may need and you may want in charity. So your standards get lowered. That's part of the trajectory of many people's lives. Now, when most people became Muslim, and many people were raised within Islam, either from birth or from childhood, then the average person coming into the masjid for prayer is not somebody who had to sacrifice and commit for the sake of Islam. It's somebody that just is part of that culture and part of that society. So the average, the median level of commitment to the religion now is not the same as it was in the past. Those people who now are just by habit and by culture and because of the majority of people around them within the fold of Islam, earlier would not have been Muslim. They would have been on the sidelines or they would have been opposed. So the quality then of the pool of Muslims within society changes. After the hijrah and the establishment of Islam in Medina, that was a natural effect, and it is a good thing. Because one of the blessings of Islam is that even if you are not a very committed Muslim, you have seen a better way to live. There are many people in this society who are not looking to go out and get drunk and black out and wake up somewhere where they don't remember how they got there and what they did. They're not bad people, but that's just what they see in school, in college, among friends. After work, if you're single, you go to a bar. That's just the way that people live. They might not be any better or any worse than somebody who lives in a different society, but a society that has a higher purpose present. It is a tide that benefits even those people who are just regular people. They're not looking for trouble, and they're not shooting for the highest level of piety. But when they are in a corrupt society, they are pulled towards corruption. And when they are in a wholesome society or family, at least they have a shot at living a better life. And it is, of course, up to any individual what they choose. And God is not going to judge unfairly. So if I am that median person, I might say that, well, I don't drink, I don't gamble, I don't do these evil things. I am better than somebody who is not Muslim and may be guilty of certain sins. But if they are not at fault, then Allah will judge them based on what they had access to. They won't have that benefit in this world of that wholesome life that I was exposed to and that I benefit from. But nobody will suffer in the hereafter because of culture or because of circumstances beyond their control. Allah will judge everybody based on what they had access to and based on what knowledge and what opportunities He gave them. But now, when you have this society, it is of benefit, but it also is a dilution of commitment. Then you need a purifying message like the message of Imam Hussein to establish that Islam should not just become habit. It shouldn't just become a label. It shouldn't be something where you say, yeah, I guess I'm Muslim. My parents were Muslim. I was raised Muslim. This is sort of the culture that I am most familiar with. It should be a commitment. And it should be a covenant with Allah. And it should have that same revolutionary potential within your life that it had in the lives of those very first Muslims. And that is what we get from our remembrance and our commemoration of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his sacrifice. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now let us look at those early Muslims, the very first Muslims, to get a little bit of an understanding of what was implicit within their character that drew them to Islam. Why were they early adopters? What was different about those first Muslims than many other people who also may have been friendly with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ before his prophecy was announced? But then some people said that how lucky it is and how fortunate it is that Allah blessed us with knowledge of the Prophet, we will follow. And others said, well, I guess that's the end of our friendship, because we're not going to follow this crazy new religion and bow down before one God. We're happy with our idols and our song and dance and all of the parts of our religion and our culture. What separated them? For us then to take the step and see how was that deepened and how was that revolutionary potential made it into an institution at a later time through the commemoration of Karbala. So who were the early Muslims? Now there is some controversy, and because many of the families of the early Muslims, they longed for the prestige and the honor that comes from saying, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother was one of the early Muslims. So there are many people whose Islam was back projected to make them among the early adopters. But there are a few that we can say are without any doubt and without any controversy the very earliest Muslims. One name that we have to mention with a little bit of care is, of course, the name of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Because when we say he was the first Muslim, it isn't that he was an early adopter of Islam. He never bowed down before a false god. He never worshipped any of the idols, and he never was unaware of who was his creator and who was the messenger of the creator. So he was born and raised and always practiced that pure religion of Islam. But when Prophet Muhammad announced his message, he was also the first to publicly accept. And so he was the first Muslim, not in the sense of somebody who was not Muslim and accepted, but the first one to publicly announce that he was Muslim. Now, there were some attempts to kind of make a number of people be first. You know how in school sometimes they give people consolation prizes? So there are some attempts to say that, well, there was a first woman in Islam, that was Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the wife of the Prophet. There was a first child in Islam, that was Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. There was a first Mawla in Islam, that was Zayd ibn Haritha, the adopted son of the Prophet. Mawla is kind of like somebody, in today's time I guess you would say somebody who is on a work visa, not a citizen, but a second-class member of society. They get to get paid a little bit less than everybody else, and they can't vote, but they might have to work harder than others. That was kind of the status of a Mawla, client of the fully vested members of society. And then there was a first slave who was Muslim, and that was Bilal. So these are different hyphens. But in reality, there is no difference between the Islam of a man and a woman. We don't need to say that there was a first woman and a first man. So if we set aside Imam Ali because he was the first Muslim and he was a Muslim alongside the Prophet throughout his message from the very beginning until the end, then the first Muslim without any hyphens and without any additional adjectives, we can say was the Prophet's wife, Khadija bint Khuwaylid. Not the first woman to accept Islam, but the first person to accept Islam along with Imam Ali and Prophet Muhammad. There are many narrations that it was just those three people who used to pray to Allah in Mecca before anyone else. Then there are some narrations that tell us that among those first Muslims was Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, better known as Ja'far al-Tayyar, the older brother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. There is a narration that tells us that there is another hidden and less known and less recognized Muslim that was also present and had fully accepted and believed in the Prophet, although generally his name does not come in any list of the early Muslims. And that is the father of Imam Ali and Ja'far al-Tayyar, Abu Talib, the uncle, and the protector and caretaker of the Prophet. It is said in narrations that once Abu Talib saw Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, praying. And this was a prayer devoted to Allah before the prayer had become an obligation for the Muslims in the early days of Islam. And the Prophet would stand, and according to narrations, he would face the Kaaba, and he would place it such that the Kaaba was between him and the direction of Jerusalem or Baytul Maqdis. And that was the direction that he would face during his prayer. and Imam Ali would stand on his right side. And so Abu Talib said to his other son Ja'far al-Tayyar that you go and stand on the left side of the Prophet. Be like two wings for the Prophet and worship along with the Prophet. Follow this religion. That was a direct admonishment to pray with the Prophet, and it was also a statement that be like the two wings to stand on either side of the Prophet, to protect and to obey and to serve and to follow. So until now we have Abu Talib, when he is commanding people and guiding people to Islam, then you can understand that he was not only a Muslim, but he was also a leader and a guide for others towards Islam. That is that name that is not generally mentioned early within the name of the first Muslims. But we have Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the wife of the Prophet. We have Ja'far al-Tayyar, the brother of Imam Ali, the cousin of the Prophet. Zayd ibn Haritha was one of the early Muslims. And then according to some narrations, the fourth or the fifth person to accept Islam was Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. So let us just take these names, that there is no controversy, there is no doubt that they were very early Muslims. What was it that distinguished them from others? One attribute is that they had nobility of character. That is illustrated in a hadith from our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam, about Ja'far al-Tayyar. And through this, you can see the example that existed within the family of Abu Talib. And one other name that I should mention was Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Imam Ali and Ja'far al-Tayyar, the wife of Abu Talib. She was also one of those very early Muslims, and she was the second woman after Khadija salamullahi alayha to publicly accept Islam and declare Islam. So Ja'far al-Tayyar, according to a hadith of Imam Muhammad Baqir, had 4 attributes before Islam was even publicly announced. And Allah honors him for those 4 attributes. Before Islam, he never bowed down before an idol. He never worshipped a false god. He didn't need the revelation of the Prophet to tell him that these idols are not worthy of worship. His own purity and innate wisdom guided him to reject the worship of false gods. Second, he did not drink wine and he did not use any intoxicants. He wasn't attracted to what is going on, because wine was a prevalent part of culture, as much as it is today. Today, if you are in school sometimes, especially in college, if you are at work, sometimes you'll find that it is difficult to avoid a gathering where wine or intoxicants are served and are prevalent, and it might even be an expectation that people will consume that poison, that damaging substance in weddings, in celebrations, in work events, and when people sometimes relax and enjoy. So it's not unexpected in that kind of an environment for a person to be curious or to engage in that behavior. But Ja'far al-Tayyar, he abstained from intoxicants and from wine even before Islam. Second was the wine. First was avoiding polytheism, wine. Third was that he did not lie. He was known for his honesty, and sometimes we bend the truth, we fudge the truth for our own interests, and if no one's gonna catch us, and if there is no God to judge us, then it might seem like the right thing and the easy thing to do, the smart or clever thing to do. Sometimes just tell a lie and don't get yourself in trouble. But Ja'far al-Tayyar, he had that character that he avoided lying. And fourth is that he was modest and chaste. Arabian society at that time was somewhat similar to our society where chastity, it almost doesn't have a meaning within society. People might say to you, if you are very modest and chaste, what's wrong with you? Are you a little weird? Are you autistic? Are you, maybe just shy a little? You need to get out more, have some confidence, enjoy. So that kind of, it's not because those people are bad. Sometimes they might say that to you with sympathy and with good intent. That, I want you to enjoy life. I want you to have fun. I want you to get ahead. It's because within society, the idea of chastity and the idea of modesty and the idea of purity is almost undefined. And therefore, people won't even know how to deal with somebody who is pious. And on the other side, people will be very proud of their immodesty. What do you guys call them now? A Chad? Or, like there's these terms of praise. These are not terms of praise. If there is somebody who has those alpha attributes and, they seem like they are very popular and very successful, that might be a point of pride. But that shows you the degeneracy and the failure within society, that the very thing that should be a source of shame is seen as a sign of success or of desirability. So Arabian society was probably similar, and people's conquests and people's immodesty were something that they would write poetry about, and they would brag about these terms that we have in slang today. I apologize if I misused it because it's from a generation after my generation, but you know the idea. That existed in a similar manner in Arabia as well. And Ja'far al-Tayyar had these 4 attributes. He did not bow down before false gods. He did not consume wine or intoxicants. He did not lie. And he understood the value of chastity, purity, and modesty. And so, of course, a person like that, when they hear the message of Islam, will be among the first to accept. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It won't be a surprise because that nobility of character. And you will find similar traits in those other early Muslims. I'll mention one other example, and then we will have to continue our discussion tomorrow. Abu Dhar. Now, Abu Dhar came from a tribe known as the tribe of Ghifar, which was a Bedouin tribe that lived between Mecca and Medina, not far from Mecca. But because they were not settled, they didn't live in a city, much of their income came from raiding caravans and trade caravans and people who had wealth. Some historians have said that that was also the way that Abu Dhar earned his livelihood. But a more accurate picture comes if we look at the character of Abu Dhar before Islam. One of the attributes is that he was in search of truth, even before Islam. Before he had heard about Islam, it is said that he prayed for 3 years. And people asked him, what was the Qibla? He said, wherever Allah turned me. I didn't know what the Qibla was. I didn't know where to turn because he hadn't yet heard of Islam. And Islam had not necessarily even been publicly proclaimed at that time. But he knew there was one God. And he knew that that God was worthy of worship. And now imagine a person who has not heard the Prophet, has not read the Quran, has not heard that message. He would pray with such fervency and such dedication that his brother Unais comes to him and he didn't even realize that his brother is there. Maybe he called him and he didn't respond until he finished his prayer, and then he saw that his brother was waiting for him so that he could speak. And he said that, what were you doing? And he said that, I cannot worship according to your religion. I cannot bow down before Manat or one of these idols. And there is only one God that is worthy of worship. When he heard that there was a messenger who came in Mecca and was calling people towards the worship of one God, it was Abu Dhar who came from outside of Mecca. First he sent his brother and then he came in person. and he accepted Islam in that first meeting with the Prophet. Many of you are familiar with the story. So that is the type of person who is able to become an early adopter of the truth. And if you and I also want to be among those people, not just who benefit from the historical lesson, but in the moral questions of our time, are able to understand what is right and wrong, and able to build the willpower, then we have to draw an example from those who were close to our Prophet and were the first to accept. When there was no money and there was no material interest. In fact, if you've read the story of the Islam of Abu Dhar, his reward from making that difficult journey of many farsakhs coming to Mecca, and at that time there were no hotels. He had no host until Imam Ali invited him and hosted him in his home, as history tells us. But it was a difficult journey in an unknown city with no protection. And his reward for proclaiming Islam was to get beaten within an inch of his life by the enemies of the Prophet. So that was what brought them to Islam, and their qualities and their attributes are ones that you and I can also develop. And if we develop those attributes, then we too will also be able to see with the moral clarity that they were able to see. When we look at Karbala, we see that the journey to Karbala was one that had many ups and downs. There were people who bid farewell to Imam Hussein, said that you are going on a dangerous journey, we cannot accompany you. We advise you not to go either. Some of them were relatives. Some of them were long-standing friends of Imam Hussein, companions of Prophet Muhammad. But they said you shouldn't go. And then there were those who said that wherever you go, we will be with you. If you go to death or martyrdom, then we do not want to be separated from the truth. Because no sacrifice is too great for the sake of God, for the sake of truth, for the sake of justice, for the sake of honor, and for the sake of the mission of Imam Hussein. It is said that on the 2nd of Muharram, the caravan of Imam Hussein reached the land that we know of as Karbala. There is something special about the very dust of Karbala. When Imam Hussein left Medina, there was one farewell that was very difficult. The old widow of the Prophet named Salama, who Imam Hussein viewed as a motherly figure in his life, because she had raised these grandsons of the Prophet, Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein, from when they were children, and she loved them more than she loved her own children. When he went to bid farewell to Salama, she said that, "Oh Hussein, 50 years ago, the Messenger of Allah, he told me that he had seen in a vision that you would be martyred in a distant land in Iraq. He came and his hair was disheveled and there was sand on his beard and on his hair. And I said, it is as if you have come from a battle. He said that I have just witnessed a battle in which my beloved grandson was martyred. And then he reached out beyond what my eye could see, and he lifted in his fist some dust, and he gave it to me. He said, "Oh Salama, this is the dust of Karbala, that most pure land where Hussein will be martyred. Keep it, and then when you see that this dust has turned crimson red as if it were blood, then know that my grandson has been martyred." Salama said that, "Oh Hussein, all these years in Medina, I had that solace in my heart that you are in front of my eyes, But now when you go on this journey and you say that you are going to Mecca and then wherever Allah takes you beyond that, I feel like that prophecy of your grandfather has drawn near. And maybe Salama would have brought the glass in which she had kept the sand of Karbala, and she showed it to Imam Hussein. He bid farewell, and then he embarked on that journey. When he reached Karbala, it is said that the horse of Imam Hussein did not go forward. The Imam said that, what is the name of this land? And then people said that it is known by different names. Somebody said that it is known as Ghadariya. Somebody said it is known as Nainawa. Somebody said it is known as Shabtul Furat. And then the Imam said that there is another name that I was told by my grandfather. Tell me, are there any other names? And somebody said that our elders say that it used to be known as Karbala. And here the Imam began to weep. أعوذ بالله من الكرب والبلاء. Karb and bala mean calamity and misfortune. The Imam said that this is that land that has been foretold to me. Narrations say that Lady Zainab, the sister of the Imam, she came forward and she said that, oh my brother, is it possible for us not to set up camp here? For since I have come into this land, my heart is not at rest, and I fear as if there is a great tragedy or a calamity that will befall us in this land. And Imam Hussein may have said that, oh my sister, this is that very land of Karbala that has been prophesied. Ha huna mahattu rihalina, ha huna masfaku dima'ina. This is where our blood will be shed. This is where our martyrs will fall. This is where we will offer that supreme sacrifice in the way of Allah. And maybe Imam Hussein would have reminded his sister Zainab that 20 years earlier or more than that, when the father of Imam Hussein, Imam Ali, was on the way to Siffin, that battle with Muawiyah, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were with their father Imam Ali, and on the way to Siffin, Imam Ali stopped in this land and he wept. And Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, they came to their father worried. They said that, oh our father, why is it that you weep? Is there anything that we can do for you? And Imam Ali said that this is a land that has been blessed by Allah, for the most pure blood will be spilt in this land. I paused so that I can pray to my Lord to make that sacrifice easy for you, O Hussein. When the time comes, on the 2nd of Muharram, Imam Hussein and his caravan of followers and his family members, they came to Karbala, and it was from that moment that the beginning of that epic battle and that great sacrifice were laid. It was in this time that Imam Hussein would have told the young warriors from his family, O Ali Akbar, O Awna Muhammad, O Abbas, prepare yourselves, for it is here that you will give that most precious offering in the way of Allah. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. O Allah, we ask you, by the blessings of this remembrance and our love for the Prophet and for the family of the Prophet, keep us on the path of truth and guidance, and protect us from temptation and sin and evil. O Allah, when we see injustice around us, then make us among those who live a life of justice and always serve the cause of justice with our words, with our deeds, with our prayers, and with our intentions. O Allah, as we love and we honor the Prophet and his family, keep us on their path and grant us their intercession on the Day of Judgment, and unite us with them in heaven for all eternity, so that we may be in their presence and in their company. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.